So it's rebooting. Then you click escape. So when you click escape, I'm showing you how to remove configuration if you have it. So you can see that the moment you see this sign, you hit on your computer escape and you pick these numbers depending on what you want to do with it. So if you want to do manual update images, you have to do change active boot images, you pick the number. For our case, we want to clear the configuration. So I want to clear the configuration and configure it again so that you see how to do a new setup of wireless controller. Okay, now all this process is in the guide. Okay, go to the second one. So this is the front interface of wireless controller. So this is the console port that I've console my laptop to, which I'm doing the password recovery from. Now this, I've connected only one port to the switch. If I'm using all the 4 ports, all will be green. So I've connected port 1. So this is the port 1 I've connected. We have here what we call management VLAN or service ports. You can use service port for your initial configuration. I will teach you that one. So what I'm doing now is to do the initial setup with what? Command line base. So with this one, you can hit enter. Then it goes to the next one. So some of them you get this configuration before, but your focus, like I show you on the membership page, is to get to the system and the admin password. So depending on the type of controller you are using, you have different ones. So this one, I missed the system name, which is not a big deal. I can come and change the default name, which is this one, to the required one that I want. But you have to put in, so every company have what we call local password. What I'm putting here is a local password. So local password where you don't need a AAA server to use, okay? You can just, if the AAA server is down, you can use it to log on. So your initial setup should be your local password. So when you are working, you are aware of your local password for your network devices, which is more generic. You use it for all your devices. So that is what I'll use. Or if you have a company where wireless is different, network is different, they don't want the network guys to interfere with their work. So they have different local password, and the network guys also have different local password. So in my case, let me use, let's say, admin as the first user local password. And let me create the password that I want to use to log on to this device. So it's asking for the password again. So I'll put the same password again also here. Now, when I put it here, it's asking for service interface IP address configuration. This one, you don't do anything. And I want you, so right now, I'm not going to move back and forth with the membership page. So I want all of you to open your membership page so that whilst you are using it to do stuff, you can know where. This one, you have enable link aggregation. This is, you don't need it to be yes or no. So you just hit enter. Then when you hit enter, what you need here is the management IP address. So in real life, company will have management IP address for their wireless network. So you don't just think and put anything anyhow. So you have to put available management IP address that the company has. Then you put it here, you understand. The management IP address I'm using to make sense with my environment is 10.0.0.0.210. So this is my management IP address that I'm going to use. Then it will ask of your subnet mask, and you are going to use 255. So whilst you are watching the screen, I want you to also mimic it with your default gateway for that network. So my default gateway is the 1, and this one I'm using VLAN 1. If I'm not using VLAN 1, I should target with a specific VLAN that I'm using. Now in my environment, I'm using VLAN 1 for my setup. So if it's VLAN 1, you can target, or you can just use 1. So I can hit enter, or I can just target with 1. any of them works. Now, this one is management interface port. Guys, pay attention to this. This is management interface port number. So all the management interface port number that you want to use, and you can pick 1 to 4. It should be a port which is on or which is connected to your switch. So for example, if I have 3 ports and I'm using 2 ports, I will not use any of the 2 that I've not connected to. I use the port that I've connected to. So in my case, I'm using only 1 port connection, and that is port 1. So I'll hit enter. Then it's also asking for management interface DHCP server IP address. If you have one in terms of DHCP server IP, you put it there. So sometimes most of the, okay, let me put it this way. If you are using wireless controller with a lightweight AP, the AP and the, how do you call it? The AP and the wireless controller should have the same IP scope, meaning that it should be the same network. Now, your APs are going to be DHCP. So it means that most of the management for AP and wireless controller are DHCP. You can also have a static, don't get me wrong. You can also have a static on in that case too. Now, if it's DHCP, it means that you have to reserve like 10 for your wireless controller or 20 for your wireless controller. But the concept is your wireless controller should have the same management network. It's a requirement, okay? Your wireless controller should have the same management with your APs. So in my case, I have DHCP for the APs. I hope my so it's rebooting. Then you click escape. DHCP. They are going to use DHCP network. So you reserve some of the network for your wireless controller management. So all your wireless and your OP should be on the same pay line. That is the point I want you to see. So I have 10.0.0.0. My wireless is the 1. So my DHCP server is the 1. So you can, so because I'm using the same interface, so I can put any of the IP address for management of the AP interface. So there is also a requirement that you have to have. So you have this. This thing is telling me. Okay, so I have 10.0.0. I'll pick any IP within the same scope. So I'm using, let's say, 211. So 0.0.211. Okay, so they have to be on the same scope, and you can pick any of the IP address. Then this one is asking of what? Using same values. It's just telling you with the DHCP server. Yes, don't worry about that. And this part, virtual gateway IP address. Your virtual IP address is for the purpose of mobility configuration. This one, you cannot use any of the thing I put on the membership page. That you cannot. You have to use what is on production. So if I come here, I'll come and check the one that I have here in terms of virtual IP address. So my virtual IP address is 111. Okay, so I'm going to use this virtual IP address on this side. So I'll use 1.1.1. It's very important, mobility reasons. So get the same IP address, unless your company is having different design. Most of the time, virtual IP has role to play in your mobility. And this one too, don't say anything, don't configure anything, because you have more than wireless controller. You have to pick. So if I have existing wireless controller. I'll come and check the mobility name that they are using as well. So you can see over here that we have default mobility domain name is mobility. So I'll use the same thing that I have. In fact, I really like command line than this GUI interface, because sometimes you have to maneuver to get what you want. By configuration, you know it, you configure, then you go. So I'll teach you both configuration and GUI so that you pick the one you like. So you create this SSID is not something you will be using. Every company has it. You can choose any name. This has no sibling, but because you are going to do mobility, it's good to make sure you are using exactly what your company is using. So you can see that two SSID, but one is disabled. This is my initial setup. When you are doing initial setup, it's a requirement to create first SSID, which you might not use on production. So I'll create the same thing that, so this one is what? NetPro. Okay, so I'll configure NetPro as the new for this site so that it would match. So I have NetPro here. Then it will also ask you for, how do you call it? DHCP bridging mode. This is by default the wireless permit static IP address for client which to find it. But for your initial setup, you can just ignore yes or no. This one too, you can also ignore yes or no. So allow a static IP address, you ignore that one. And this one, configure a radio server now. So if your company has a radio server IP, this is the time you can put it here. Or you can ignore it and put it once you set it up through GUI. So we are going to learn how to add a radio server to a wireless controller. So I'll bypass this one. So instead of, and in network, we can say Y or N, but in wireless, you have to type the full one. So you don't say N or whatever, you have to say NO. Then this is very, very important as a network engineer and even in an interview process. What is the country code list letter for US? And that is NL. NL is the one we are using. Now, these are frequency that the wireless controller support. This is 4400. So it support B, it support A, it support G, and it doesn't support what? N. So if I have client where the wireless adapter is only N only, it cannot work with this infrastructure. So that is why I'm saying that the 802.11 is very, very important to know as a network engineer. So then it said enable auto frequency. So I will not pick any of them. Then he's saying that MPTC, which is the network, NTP, which is the network protocol. So every company have the network time protocol. Sometimes the IP of your core switch, sometimes you can have a dedicated server for that. And as a network engineer, when you do show run on your core switch and you pipe it, then you say begin NTP to give you only the IP address, and you can use it to put it here. And over here, I don't, for the wireless controller, I don't have this on the environment. So in this case, I will say no. If I say yes, then I have to put it there. And I have to configure the service time. So the service time is very important. So that one I will say yes. And like I'm saying, it doesn't work with Y and N as we do in networking. Then enter the dates over here. So to enter the date over here, we have month, day, and years. Now, this is very, very important. And it's an issue that has happened to me for certain environment, which was relating to certification issues. So every wireless controller has what we call self-assigned certificate. And that is what most wireless controllers use. So what it means is that if your company don't have a third-party certification system, which you kind of fall on to renew your certification, then your device should, the date you put here, this device should still be useful with the self-assigned certificate. So for this 4400, it's end of life. So if I use 2020, I'll have certificate issue. And when I have certificate issue, all supported APs will not join this wireless controller. Let me put it again. What I'm saying here is that every wireless controller, okay, has what we call self-assigned certificate. So when you are logging onto a new wireless controller, it gives you one and then you say proceed. Now, that date you put here should be relevant to that certificate, unless you have a third-party certificate on your environment, or you have some private, or you are using the public base, the PKI. If not, in that case, your date should be relevant. Now, because this is end of life, if I use like 2017 or 2016, I will not join with the APs. And we had issue on that. That is the more reason why I know this offhand. So if I'm doing configuration for 4400 without any certification system on my environment, I have to use up to 2015 so that I'll be able to join the wireless controller, especially with the code that I'm doing. So in real life, if you are having certification issue, you see it in the logs. So you either upgrade your image to the level that will make it relevant for your current time, or you backdate your time before if not, all your APs will be disassociated from the wireless controller. Don't forget this. You can even use it as a technical scenario issue in your interview process. So I'm going to have the month, which is 01. I'm going to have a day, which is 012. And I'm going to have the month, which is 2YY, so I'll use 15, and I'll hit enter so that I don't have issue. And as for the time, I can use current time. It's not a big deal. The disadvantage is that with your logs will not be updated. So in real life, you don't do this. What it means is that you either upgrade the software to make it relevant to current time, or you backdate the date. If not, no AP will be associated with. Or let's say I have is the first one is in what, hours? So
question.
One is in minutes. Give me a minute. And the next one is in seconds. Okay. So I hit enter. And then it's saying that it's going to reset. I'm coming. You ask your question. Saying that it's going to reset your system by configuration correct. If yes, system will save it and reset it. Reset means it will reboot it. I want the configuration, so I will say yes. So I'll hit enter, and it says exactly what you see on your. Some processes are not available because they are different controllers, but the same process, the same concept. What is the question, please?
Well, so question is on the certificate side. Are these like self-assigned certificate from Cisco? Oh, okay.
But yes, so every device should has how do you call it? We have PKI, which is public key infrastructure. So if you are a vendor, you have to validate your product. So you validate your product with self-assigned certificate. Now, with that self-assigned certificate is what some people use mostly for wireless controllers, but your image should always be up to date. So you have to be doing upgrade. And that is why some companies have third-party certification for so many things. You can use it for authentication, you can use it for your SSL, you can use it for your wireless as well. So yes, that is the self-assigned one.
Okay, and this is the same certificate that users use for authentication via whether radios or data. So
it depends. So in terms of authentication with which we will go there. So you go there, when we go, you get it better. So We are going to create SSIE with using radio server. So when we go there, I'll give you proper understanding and you get proper idea of what you are talking about.
Okay.
Certification for AP to join to wireless controller. Now, the wireless controller has a self-assigned certificate you can use for your association purpose. Now, if your certificate has expired, okay, so whether you are using self-assigned, because now Cisco, so it has expired, or you are using a third-party certification, what it means is that when you are trying to associate, it will not associate itself because it doesn't have the certificate, or the AP needs the wireless controller to validate that it's a proper device to connect to. Let me put it that way. Now, if it expires, it will not. So some companies have third-party certification. So when it expires, they will renew. In fact, the security, when we are doing security class, I'll dwell more about certification, and you understand. You can get a job where your main focus is it's a big issue to make any of your devices certification to expire. It's a very big issue. So you have to make sure that all devices are on top in terms of certification. You have to know that. So it's another row of its own. Now, if you don't have that one, you are using the self-assigned, sometimes you can forget yourself and you see that your certificate will expire and every AP will disassociate itself. The quick fix for that one is to backdate the dates. And the long-term fix to upgrade the image or let the certification team update your certification. And you see the logs. You see, I'll show you how to read logs on wireless controllers. So you see the logs to know that it's a certificate issue. You see that it's a good sign. It means that I can get a GUI of this interface. So I do, admin, then I put my password, and I'll do a few verification to see that I'm good shape. So now I'm good shape. So I can just verify my configuration by doing show run. So in terms of wireless controller, we say show run config. Then when you bring question mark, you can see that you have command, you have no AP. So if I want to get configuration without any AP, I'll do no AP. If I want to get display list of all configured configuration, I'll also use that one. So I'm going to use command and show you something. So when I do this, what have I done so far? What I've done so far is just the management and the password. So that is what I'll be interested in looking for. So in terms of the management, I verify everything is correct. In terms of my virtual IP, everything is correct. So I can quit. It has a lot of crazy stuff. So I can quit and come to my browser and open my GUI interface. So I'm going to open with 210. Okay, so using the same IP that I had before. And by default, wireless controller is enabled by HTTPS. If you go and use, let me do this. If you go and use HTTP, you think you didn't do the configuration right, but it's because you are logging on with the wrong protocol. So by default, you can't open it with 210. Okay. So by default, you get this site cannot be reached. It doesn't mean your IP is not correct, or it doesn't mean you cannot communicate. It's just that by default, HTTP is disabled. So this is very, very important, guys. You should always use HTTPS. Don't forget that principle. Very, very, very important. Then you have 10.0.0. What do you have? 10.0.0.210. Now, this is a normal thing to see all the time, okay? It's giving you that, oh, you are using just self-assigned certification and all that. You say, I don't mind, so advanced. And you say, proceed on safe. You say, yes, I can proceed. I trust this device. Then you log on, you just go log in. Then when you go to log in, Oh, it gave me straight away. How? It didn't allow me to even put a password. Or is it because I'm using the same interface? That is weird. It should have allowed me to put in the password. But anyway, we are in, which is more important. Okay, so when I go to controller, I can make changes with the right name that I want to give to this wireless controller. So that the system didn't allow me to do that. So I can do NPTC, then I have to have what? PTC, then I have wireless controller 2. So I'm naming it as NPTC wireless controller 2, and I apply it. So, and now it's corrected. If I refresh this one, my interface name is going to change. So now I have it this way. So over here, you can see that you have management IP address, which is there. You have service port IP, you can put it there for if you, okay, also let me say this. If you want to log on to, if you don't want to use this process for your initial setup, you can use what we call service port setup. Now, service port is what you have over here. Let me see if I can get the image of 2400. I think that would be better to see it this one. And I hope you don't go and use, you don't have to deploy any of this one, but if you are going to deploy any of this one, you need a specific console to be able to have console access to this device. So this side is the service port. This is your console one, and the console one, this side is the female. So you need the male serial ports. How do I show you this one? You need the male serial ports together with another connection before you can console into it. So you need what we call male to male console cable. Then you need the USB to serial. To make, then you need to buy this one of these days. If you have any issue that you have to get console access, you can go to eBay and you can get one of those stuff. Now, you can do service port configuration. You connect your laptop to this part. You give 192. This by default, you can open it with 192.168.1.1. Then give .2 to your switch. Then you browse it. When you browse it, because I said to your switch, to your PC, because you have common communication, it will allow you to communicate to each other. So I'll put that configuration on the membership page. How to set up using a service port. It's also easy. Or you can use the command line in case you have the right console cable to use it for. Okay. So just to go through some of the things we see here before we go into details of our configuration. We have monitor. Okay, so when you click monitor, you are going to see everything, the name, the hours, your uptime, how long if somebody is lying to you that he has not repowered the wireless controller. When you log on, you will see the uptime here. You can see that it has been on just recently. And that is the more reason why all the APs were down. So you see the uptime here, you see your memory utilization, you see your CPU utilization. And that is why we are saying that wireless controller gives you monitoring view as well, because you can see your CPU utilization. So if your CPU is very high, you can see it here. And you can also see your mobility name that you are using in your computer. So all those things are available. And you can see all your frequency or radio frequency that you use. Okay. So it's saying that you can support this access point, AN, BGN, all those access points, it can support it. So that is for this side. Okay.